If I may take a moment, I can recall one. Time. Proceed. I must give you an explanation. A little. We were purportedly taking a shot on shore. A soundstage was used for this. The wife of Rock Hudson laid a trap in 1958 in their house in Hollywood. She questioned him. It was one question that made all the difference. Private investigators surreptitiously recorded his response. For 65 days, that cassette vanished. I'd have ruined him. His own words disclosed the reasons behind his phony marriage. Why was he protected by powerful people? He was terrified. Until he passed away in 1985, Hollywood never has this conversation. Wanted to tell you, the narrative of Rock Hudson started at an area remote from filming locations and red carpets. Roy Harold was his birth name. On November 17, 1925, Scherer Jr., Illinois Wetka, Catherine, his parents, Wood, and Sr., Roy Harold Scherer, were regular employees attempting to make in difficult times ends meet. Wetka was silent and humble. Not at all like the Hollywood he would go on to dominate the world. The great America was severely struck by the Depression, and the burden was felt by the Scherer family. As soon as Roy was only a young child, his dad lost his auto mechanic job. Roy was struggling and couldn't handle it. Sr. departed from the family. This took place before Roy's 4th birthday. That early abandonment deeply impacted the boy. It influenced his worldview, and would remain at his side for the remainder of his existence. It didn't get any simpler. His mom got married again, selecting a man named Fitzgerald Wallace. Fitzgerald was a former Marine who served as Theome with rigorous rules. Roy didn't desire a new father, and he undoubtedly refused to change his name. But he had noticed it. After adopting him, Fitzgerald transformed Fitzgerald as his last name, unthought he would comply. The boy sensed helpless. His given name was derived from so, was his feeling of inclusion. Residing under a man's roof, who expected constant respect and order, caused tension in the home. These formative years were bewildered and annoyance, making Roy yearn for escape route. Despite being an adolescent, didn't fit together. Roy had a dream about performing. He desired to appear on the stage, but one issue existed. He was unable to his lines by heart. In high school, he lost role after role due to his shortcomings. Auditioned for plays, but he continued to fail. He was observed by his teachers and peers. As a young man who struggled with drama, he encountered the same difficulty when he attempted to enter the Hollywood industry. Casting his attractive appearance did not impress the agents. Features an imposing 65-inch body if his lines were not delivered. However, he persisted in attempting. Rejection upon rejection might have dashed his dreams, but Roy, unwilling to give up, that conclusion would make him famous someday. Prior to Thewald gave him a shot in Hollywood. Asked him to serve. Between 1944 and 1946, during World War II, Roy enlisted in the Navy. He was employed as a mechanic for airplanes in the Philippines. It was not a glamorous job. It was difficult, risky, and essential. Roy and other mechanics maintained the aircraft, flying the ongoing operations, and in the Pacific, fight to the death. His stature, he stood out among his peers because he was 6'5" seafarers. However, it was his diligence and bravery that really made him stand out. He learned discipline from war. It gave him knowledge. Resilience. Additionally, it equipped him for the conflicts he might encounter later in Hollywood. Following its use as an aircraft U.S. Navy mechanic during World War II in 1946, Rock Hudson came home. He had one objective when he relocated to Los Angeles: to pursue a career in acting. However, shattering into Hollywood was far more difficult than he had envisioned. He was unconnected. He lacked official training. In order to live, he had a truck driving job. It covered Thobles, but it didn't make him happy. What cause he spent his free time dissecting him. Hudson would spend hours standing outside studio gates. He held on to his headshot and resumes in the hopes that someone significant will take attention of him. He distributed his photo to anyone who could be of assistance. He arrived the next day, even though he was disregarded or turned aside. His perseverance was amazing. His desperate situation was. His luck finally turned around in 1947. Henry Wilson was a formidable agent. Saw his picture. Wilson gained notoriety for transforming unknowns into stars. He thought although Hudson had promise, he also felt that Hudson needed a complete transformation. His name was the first thing to disappear. Rock Hudson was made by Wilson. Rock for the umbrella rock to symbolize might. Hudson wanting the river to imply a Thorian movement. The new moniker was powerful, straightforward and simple to recall. Yet though the change was more profound, Wilson organized speech and acting classes, dental work, coaching, and even posture correction. Hudson was not fond with his new moniker, but he agreed to it. He was aware that it was his path to Hollywood. His initial 1948 saw the debut of the film. It was a little member of the fighter squadron. Hudson possessed just a single line, but saying I needed 38 tries. He felt uneasy. Hellicked experience. The filmmaker he called out to Hudson. He was a large, stupid tree for remaining motionless. Before the camera. That instant might have caused him to break. Rather, it fueled him. Hudson continued his education. It in more effort. He promised not to feel. Made me feel ashamed once more. Later in the year, his contract was purchased by Universal Pictures. From Warner Brothers, they had faith in his capacity. He was assigned to the best acting instructors. He picked up speaking, horseback riding, singing, dancing, and fencing riding, all a leading man required. Slowly, he improved. His minor roles grew larger. His self-assurance increased. He was given numerous opportunities by Universal. Because they witnessed his potential. From 1948 to 1954, Hudson made an appearance in 28 movies. First, he performs mild characters or uncredited roles. But he continued to get better. He began on attaining leads for adventure and Western films movies. He was starring in movies by 1952. Have you seen anyone? I like Scarlet Angel. My gal. In 1954, he assumed the position of In Magnificent Obsession. Bob Merrick altered his life indefinitely. Hudson performed a careless youngster whose self-centered behavior caused the death of a physician. Things became even worse when his error resulted in the Jane Wyman's character, the doctor's widow, lost her vision. However, the tale didn't finish in a tragedy. His personality was full of regret and made the decision to change. He educated to operate on the brain and kept the woman he had injured safe. What's crazy is that this position was first extended to Jeffrey Chandler, who declined base. It seemed excessively soapy to him. Hudson's door was opened by the decision. The movie earned more than $5 million in the U.S. box office, which was extremely large throughout the time despite the fact that reviewers provided conflicting grooves, the vibrant colors of the film, and it was popular because of its passionate style. Jane Wyman was nominated for an Oscar and from a face amid the crowd. Hudson became into a star that Hollywood was unable to disregard. Toward the end of the year, Hudson became extremely popular. He turned into the 17th most well-liked celebrity in America in 1954. Modern Screen magazine, a prominent publication at the time. Fan culture referred to him as the year's most popular actor. That money wasn't the only factor in title. It was evident how much he was adored by audiences. He moved from being almost unknown to a household name. His expression was all over. From radio to magazine ensconces, fans were enamored, and Hollywood was aware that they had discovered their next large star. Hudson continued to prove himself. He starred in All That Heaven in 1955. Permits, acting as a generous gardener who develops feelings for a wealthy widow. Their little hamlet was startled by their romance, and generated a lot of conversation among spectators. He starred in Written on the following year, The Wind, an outrageous tale about avarice, Texas secrets and family issues. The two movies demonstrated that Hudson wasn't simply attractive. He was able to bring deep feeling to the screen. He gained notoriety, as the most romantic hero of all time in the 1950s. His roles in these movies were beneficial, influenced the romances in Hollywood for years to follow. However, in 1956, Giant was the one that constituted the pinnacle of his professional life. Hudson played the prideful Texas character Bick Benedict. Baron of Cattle. The movie was based on Bick's Around Him, Life in Texas Transformed. Hudson starred with Elizabeth Taylor and James Dean provided his last performance prior to his untimely demise. The production cost of the film was $5.40 per million, made more than $454 million after adjustments. For the money of today, Hudson appeared amazing range as Bick, transitioning from a obstinate rancher to a man who discovered how to the times. The movie addressed issues of racism, class, and gender, and it turned into one of Hollywood's best epics. Hudson's stirring performance earned him his first and only Academy Award, 1957 nomination for Best Actor, even though Yul Brynner defeated him. The nomination demonstrated that Hudson was more than just a good-looking face. It was evident that he might provide profound poignant performance that audiences remembered. Hollywood, in the 1950s, was a location where secrets have the power to make or ruin actor. Rock Hudson was among the most significant names back then, renowned for his excellent charm and appearance. However, behind the scenes, rumors concerning his personal life endangered everything. In 1955, A Confidential, a magazine, was about to reveal him. Henry Wilson, his agent, knew Hudson's career may be ruined by this. Wilson is well known for shielding his stars. Pictures devised a strategy. He made arrangements wanting Hudson's secretary to wed him, Gates, Phyllis. It wasn't love. It was an attempt to portray Hudson as a ideal husband and father. They were married on November 9, 1955. Santa Barbara. There weren't many people present, including Wilson. Hudson informed reporters that his greatest gift was marriage, but his loved ones were aware that it was all a lie. Other stars were even traded by the studio. Tabloids, secrets, in order to preserve Hudson's consult. Hudson and Phyllis Gates had first met in the residence of Wilson, October 1954. That wasn't a chance meeting. Wilson organized it as a component of his strategy. In a few days, they were spotted out together, chatting. Columnists referred to it as romantic. Early on, Gates moved into Hudson's home in 1955 on Sunset Boulevard. All of their actions was set up to appear authentic. Connection. Later, some stories said Gates has always known it was a hoax. There were even allegations that she was gay. Making her the ideal collaborator on this take action. Their purported romance was essentially only damage control. Both of them were acting in parts that were overseen by the most strong agent in the community. Their union didn't endure. Following a brief, things broke apart during the Jamaican honeymoon. Gates claimed that their sexual lives were hurried and she was once informed by Hudson, all lattice era filthy. That was extremely painful. She began receiving calls late at night from young men who say they're fans. Hudson stayed out late and frequently skipped home till the next day. The gossip regarding him having sex with males became more common. Afterwards, a friend verified that Hudson was while filming it with another man in Italy. Goodbye. By 1957, though the marriage was over, Gates submitted a divorce in April 1958 due to mental health issues. Brutality. The divorce was finalized. In the same year. When it was time to split items, Hudson provided little. Gates was somewhat aback when he gave her only her car, little money, and nowhere to. Desperate and furious, she dismissed her first attorney and brought on a new one. At that point, private investigator, Fred Odak investigator, came into play. The Odatach was well known for uncovering scandals in Hollywood. Stars. Gates sought evidence of Hudson's personal life as leverage. In the end, Hudson accepted a greater offer. Gates received $250 per week for their home. 10 years, which is almost $1.3 million today, as well as shares in his producing business. The acrid battle demonstrated the lack of trust that remained between them. In December 1958, Rock Hudson spent the closed doors. Life took a tragic turn, within his own house. Phyllis, his wife Gates, seated him and faced him with an unexpected element. A Rorschach. She asserted his responses, in which had observed thousands of snakes and butterflies, considerably more than he had thought. She claimed that butterflies displayed hysipol to females. She said, snakes simply the desire to attract men. Calmly, Gates informed him, I'm not denouncing you, but if you understand your issue, wouldn't you like to something concerning it? What appeared to be a worried wife's request was truly a move in a more complex game. Gates, led by Fred Odatch, a private investigator, was attempting to collect evidence for aspiration. In the 1950s, a mental health test might turn into a weapon. Additionally, in Hollywood, appearances were crucial. That was not the end of the night. Gates had established, Hudson stepped straight into the trap. Odatch surreptitiously captured their dialogue, an undiscovered tape for more than 65 years. On that recording, Gates asked him a question nobody could answer. Envisioned a conversation between a married couple back then. Rock, she said, you have a lot of sexual speed with me. Are you that quick with boys? Was savage and piercing? Hudson was just 32. The individual who was chosen as one of the most sought-after stars in the world were taken by surprise. It wasn't merely a heartbreak of a wife. It was a meticulous deliberate ambush. Gates wasn't looking for the reality. She was gathering ammunition. What followed was even more startling. Hudson, confined in under pressure, delivered a silent and devastating response. Well, he answered, it's a physical conjunction. Since boys aren't compatible, this is why it endures. Longer endures. He said blunt, they displayed the concealed suffering of, man who must lead to lives. In 1958, even in private, acknowledging this wash exodus, a few incorrect words could lead to overling his safety. His job, however, he was there, clearly. Speaking on HS was unaware that there was a recording. Gates continued to push. What did she accuse him of? The gossip groups and tabloids had muttered for years. Everyone, she said, is aware that you were removing boys. The street not long after our marriage and have kept doing so, believing that marriage would serve as a disguise for you. Hudson made an effort to protect himself. I never encountered any boys on S-Tree. No boys have ever been picked up by me. I have never picked up in a bar. Any lads besides giving them a ride. But the harm had already been done. Thereafter, starting in 1955, the marriage was finished. By 1958, upon Gates' divorce filing, mental brutality, she said, the settlement was enormous. Gates received their $250 per week for a house in the Hollywood Hills 10 years. That's more than $1.30 million. Today, for many years, nobody these were known outside of a tiny circle. Information. The tape remains securely stored in the files of Fred Odatch. He had concealed things. For the most well-known figures, Marilyn Monroe, Garland, Judy, and others. Following his passing, the files remained secret for a period in 1992, longer afterward, in the 2010s and 2020s, and they were released by family. The truth was revealed. In novels, documentaries, and publications, at last, the world heard what had actual occurred that evening. When the Pillow Speaks released in theaters in October 1959, however, it wasn't just another romance comedy. It was the movies that altered Rock Hudson's professional trajectory forever. He starred for the first time. Next to Doris Day. Their chemistry was intense. Up the screen, the audiences were captivated. The narrative was bold and lighthearted for its time. It followed two individuals who were compelled to share a phone line. Hudson performed as smooth-talking composer. Doris Day was a clever interior designer. The teasing crackled. The movie produced $18.75 million at the box office. That was enormous. Cash in 1959. It took first place in U.S. theaters for 7 weeks in a row. The Doris Day received her sole Oscar for Success nomination. Additionally, it transformed Hudson and Turo, romantic comedy's finest. The pair became so well liked that they both selected as the 1959 Alley's Stars of the Year. The fans were unable to get enough of them. Women loved Hudson. Men aspired to be like Toheem. The enchantment they produced on screen was uncommon. Their movies seemed new, humorous, and unstoppable. Their success together resulted into two more successful films. Return of the Lover released in 1961 and earned $7.6 million. Lisa's follow-up with Send Me No Flowers, 1964, and won another prize at the box office. Together, their three films set the typical of romantic comedies. Even people still regard them today. Ace-Off, the greatest ever produced. Behind the scenes, Hudson wasn't merely actor. He used his seven to get control. Pictures Corporation, he was employed as animator of Lover Comeback without credit. For Send Me No Flowers, he did the same. Through the production company Brawler. That wasn't typical for performers at the time, but Hudson desired influence over his profession, and he understood. His movies weren't merely entertainment, they earned cash and provided him with. His talent was not overlooked. From 1959 until 1963, Hudson took home the Golden Globe for Best Film in the World Male for 4 consecutive years. That sort of streak was uncommon. It demonstrated how much he was adored by audiences. He was standing next to celebrities such as Tony Curtis and Cary Grant, a highly regarded actor in the world. Hudson wasn't content with merely being a romantic interest. He initiated his own manufacturing firms. The first 7 Jabrailer, followed by Pictures Corporation and Prudence. He was liberated as a result. He selected parts that piqued his curiosity. He split the earnings. He was involved in what took place. This action kept him while others faded at the top. His business acumen made it possible for many actors could only imagine. However, not every choice was successful. Lately in the 1950s, Hudson declined parts in Sayonara, The Key River Bridge, as well as Ben-Hur. All 3 rose to fame. Movies, he starred in A Farewell Instead, Two Arms, in 1957. The film was a failure. It diminished his reputation. Hudson thereafter that it was a grave error. He failed to list out on Oscar glory. In 1966, Hudson took a second risk. The Shadows. It was not his typical thriller. Movies, he portrayed a man who was confined in a terrifying new life. Critics gave admiration to him, but viewers avoided him. Though the film only made $1.75 million years later, it was referred to as Nonetheless, it was a hard hit. Hudson made another attempt to shatter away from his amorous persona. He starred in Ice Station, Zebra, in 1967, and Taybrook in 1968. Both movies demonstrated his more Zebra from Ice Station became his favorite. It was a box office success, even though it didn't return its enormous spending plan. Hudson demonstrated his ability to manage not just romance, but drama and action. In Hudson co-starred with John Wayne. In 1969. In The Undefeated, he found the secrets of folklore. Wayne used elevators in his little shoes, boots, and even a corset. To retain his well-known persona. At 6'5", Hudson surpassed Wayne's 6'3" inches height. And Hudson was actually taller than most prominent figures of his era, such as James